If my husband ever fails me, my ex will take his place.
Then take this ring. And everything she's been hiding from both of us. The entire anniversary party fell silent.
The moment my wife pointed at her ex-boyfriend and laughed, "If my husband ever fails me, he'll take his place." Everyone expected me to laugh with her. Instead, I removed my wedding ring, placed it in his open hand, and said, "Then you should start earning everything that comes with it." The room went silent. But that was only the beginning, because by then, I already knew their joke was not a joke at all. Hello. My name is Daniel Mercer. I am 38 years old, and until the night of my 5th wedding anniversary, I believed patience was one of the strongest things a husband could offer his marriage. I was wrong. Sometimes patience is just the polite name we give to ignoring disrespect. My wife, Vanessa, and I met 6 years earlier at a charity dinner in Chicago. She was confident, funny, and impossible to overlook. I owned a small logistics company that I had built with my older brother, Aaron. Vanessa worked in public relations and could make a room full of strangers feel like they had known her forever. She told me she liked that I was steady. I told her I liked that she was fearless. For the first few years, our differences fit together perfectly. She brought excitement into my careful life. I gave her security when her world became chaotic. When we married, I believed we had found balance. Then, about 6 months before our 5th anniversary, her ex-boyfriend came back to Chicago. His name was Marcus Reed. Vanessa introduced him casually one evening while we were having dinner. "You remember Marcus," she said, although I had never met him. "We dated years ago. He's moving back for work." I nodded and returned to my meal. I was not a jealous man, and Vanessa knew that. At first, Marcus appeared only in harmless stories. Marcus had recommended a restaurant. Marcus knew a good photographer. Marcus had tickets to a concert. Then his name began appearing in our plans. One Saturday, I arrived at brunch and found him already sitting beside my wife. Another night, Vanessa invited him to a gathering at our home without mentioning it to me. Each time, she dismissed my surprise with the same smile. "Daniel, don't be strange." Marcus always acted respectful in front of me. He shook my hand. He asked about my company. He even called me the lucky man. But there was something practiced about him. His compliments felt like measurements. His smile never reached his eyes. The first real warning came 2 months before our anniversary. Vanessa and I were supposed to meet with an event planner. She wanted a large celebration at the Lakeshore Crown Hotel. I thought a quiet dinner would have been enough, but she said 5 years deserved something memorable. I arrived at the hotel 20 minutes early. Vanessa was in the lounge with Marcus. They did not see me at first. Marcus leaned close and said something that made her laugh. Then she touched his wrist. It was not a dramatic gesture. It was quick and familiar, the kind of touch people make when they have forgotten someone else might be watching. When Vanessa noticed me, she pulled her hand away. "Marcus was just helping me choose the champagne," she said. I asked why her ex-boyfriend was helping plan our anniversary. She rolled her eyes. "Because he understands events, Daniel. Not everything is an attack on you." Marcus raised both hands and smiled. "I can leave if this is a problem." The way he said it made me look unreasonable before I had even answered. So I said it was fine. That was my mistake, not because I trusted my wife, but because I allowed her to turn a reasonable boundary into evidence of insecurity. Over the next few weeks, little things changed. Vanessa put a new password on her phone. She began attending more late meetings. When I called, she often answered from noisy restaurants, but claimed she was still at the office. Then our accountant, Priya Shah, called me about a payment from our household account. It was for $12,000, sent to a consulting company called Reed Strategy Group. Marcus's last name was Reed. I asked Vanessa about it that evening. She barely looked up from her phone. "It's for anniversary planning and image consulting. $12,000. You told me to make the party special. I told you we could set a budget together." I did not approve a payment to Marcus. Her face hardened. "Your company is doing better than ever, and suddenly you're interrogating me over every dollar." I reminded her that our marriage was not an expense account. She stood, pushed her chair back, and told me that I was becoming controlling. That word ended the conversation exactly as she intended. But it did not end my questions. The next morning, I asked Priya to review every recent transfer from our joint accounts. I did not accuse Vanessa of an affair. I did not hire someone to follow her. I simply wanted to understand where our money was going. Priya found 3 more payments to Marcus's company. Together, they totaled $48,000. 2 payments were labeled consulting. 1 was labeled venue deposit. But the Lakeshore Crown confirmed that I had already paid the full deposit directly. I felt something cold settle inside me. This was no longer about an old boyfriend sitting too close to my wife. Someone was stealing from our marriage. I met Aaron at our warehouse after closing. He was the only person I trusted enough to tell. He listened without interrupting. Then he asked a question that changed everything. Is Vanessa legally connected to the company? 5 years earlier, shortly after our wedding, I had given her a 10% non-voting interest. It was meant as a symbol that the life I was building belonged to both of us. Aaron stared at me. Check whether she has promised that interest to anyone. The idea sounded impossible. Vanessa could not transfer it without approval, but she could use it to mislead an investor or lender. Our attorney reviewed the records. 2 days later, he found a financing application submitted by Reed Strategy Group. The application listed Vanessa as a future partner and referred to her interest in Mercer Freight as security. The application was incomplete and legally worthless without my signature. But the intention was clear. Marcus was seeking a large business loan. Vanessa had told him that my company would support it. I wanted to confront her immediately. I imagined placing every document on the kitchen table and demanding the truth. Then my attorney advised me to wait. If you accuse her now, they'll delete messages and change their story, he said. Secure the business first. So while Vanessa planned the celebration of our marriage with the man she planned to replace me with, I quietly protected what my brother and I had spent 12 years building. We updated company permissions. We notified our bank that no personal guarantee was valid without direct verification. I moved my salary deposits into an individual account and left enough money in our joint account to cover every normal household bill. I also made copies of the financial records. That was when the mystery turned uglier. Priya discovered that the $48,000 had not all gone toward Marcus's business. Almost half had paid his personal debts, a luxury car balance, overdue rent, and gambling losses at a private club in Indiana. Vanessa had not simply hired him. She had been rescuing him with our money. 3 nights before the anniversary, she left her tablet on the kitchen counter. A message appeared on the screen while I was pouring coffee. Marcus after the party, he won't know what hit him. Then another message appeared. Mark S. make the joke. If he loses his temper, everyone will see what you deal with. I stood there staring at the words until the screen went dark. Their plan finally became clear. Vanessa intended to provoke me in public. If I shouted, threatened Marcus, or caused a scene, she would present herself as the humiliated wife of an unstable husband. She could use the witnesses during a divorce and negotiate from a position of sympathy. Maybe she expected me to beg. Maybe Marcus expected me to throw a punch. They had studied my pride but misunderstood my strength. I did not need to win their game. I only needed to refuse to play it. On the afternoon of our anniversary, Vanessa stood in our bedroom wearing a silver dress and diamond earrings I had given her on our 3rd Christmas together. "You seem quiet," she said. "About what?" I looked at her reflection in the mirror. "About 5 years." Oh, for 1 second, I thought she knew. Then she smiled and kissed my cheek. "Tonight will be unforgettable." She was right. More than 80 guests filled the hotel ballroom. My parents were there. Aaron and Priya were there. Vanessa had invited coworkers, and several people I had never met. Marcus stood near the bar in a dark blue suit, greeting guests as if he were a host. When he saw me, he lifted his glass. He said, "That's an accomplishment." "It is," I replied. "You learn a lot in 5 years." His smile weakened, but only for a moment. During dinner, Vanessa gave a speech about love, adventure, and the importance of choosing someone who would never hold you back. She praised me for being dependable. The word sounded less like love and more like a description of furniture. Then she began talking about second chances. Marcus moved closer to the front table. Vanessa raised her champagne glass and said, "Daniel knows I always keep a backup plan." Several people laughed nervously. She pointed at Marcus. "If my husband ever fails me." The room erupted with scattered laughter. Marcus opened his arms like an actor accepting applause. Vanessa watched me carefully. She was waiting for anger. I stood slowly. The laughter faded. I looked at Marcus and asked him to hold out his hand. He glanced at Vanessa amused, then extended it. I removed my wedding ring and dropped it into his palm. "Then you should start earning everything that comes with it," I said. "The mortgage, the bills, her $48,000 gift to you, and the legal questions about the business loan you tried to secure with property neither of you controls." Marcus's face lost all color. Vanessa whispered my name. I turned to the guests. "Please forgive the interruption. I was invited here to celebrate my marriage. Apparently, I am actually here to audition for a role I have already held for 5 years. I withdraw my application." No one laughed. Vanessa rushed toward me. "Daniel, this isn't what you think. Then tell everyone what it is." She looked around the room. The same audience she had invited to witness my humiliation was now waiting for her explanation. Marcus closed his fist around my ring and stepped back. "This is between you two," he said. That single sentence destroyed the fantasy Vanessa had built around him. She turned to him. "What do you mean? You said?" He cut her off. "I said I would help with the event. I did not agree to be part of your marriage problems." I almost admired how quickly he abandoned her. Vanessa grabbed my arm. "I know about the messages," I said quietly. "I know you wanted me angry in front of witnesses. I know about the loan application and his debts." Her eyes filled with panic, not regret. "We can explain everything at home. There is no conversation at home tonight. My attorney will contact yours on Monday." She slapped me. The sound cracked through the ballroom. For a moment, no one moved. Then Vanessa realized what she had done. Her carefully arranged witnesses had just watched her become the only violent person in the room. Aaron stepped beside me. Hotel security approached. But I told them I did not want Vanessa arrested. I only asked them to make sure I could leave without being followed. As I walked toward the door, Marcus called my name. I turned. He held up the "Forgot this." "No," I said. I left it with the replacement. Outside, the cold night air hit my face. My hands were shaking, but I kept walking. People imagine revenge feels like fire. For me, it felt like silence after years of noise. The consequences began the next morning. Marcus called Vanessa and demanded more money. He claimed the public accusation had damaged his reputation and threatened to say she had forged the loan documents alone. I know this because Vanessa left me 6 voice messages, each more desperate than the last. In the first, she blamed the champagne. In the second, she blamed Marcus. In the third, she blamed me for embarrassing her. Only in the 6th did she say she was sorry. By then, the word had no weight. My attorney filed for divorce. We also demanded repayment of the money transferred, without my knowledge. Vanessa claimed the payments were marital spending, but the false venue description and the loan application weakened her position. Marcus's company collapsed within weeks. The lender rejected his application and referred the suspicious documents for review. His car was repossessed. The private club suspended his membership over unpaid debts. Then he sent the wedding ring to my office by courier. There was no note. I kept the ring in a drawer until the divorce was final. Vanessa tried several times to repair the marriage. During mediation, she cried and said Marcus had manipulated her. She claimed she never planned to leave me. She only wanted to frighten me into becoming more attentive. I asked her one question. "When you imagined me hurt in front of everyone we loved, did that make you feel closer to me?" She had no answer. The divorce settlement required her to repay a substantial part of the missing money from her share of our home. She kept none of my business interest. Marcus avoided criminal charges after cooperating with the lender's investigation, but he admitted in writing that Vanessa had represented herself as able to control company assets. They did not end up together. That may have been the most predictable part of the whole story. 6 months later, I sold the house. It was beautiful, but every room carried a memory that no longer belonged to the man I wanted to become. I bought a smaller place near the lake. Aaron helped me move, Priya brought food, and refused to let us call cold pizza dinner. On my first evening there, I opened the drawer containing the wedding ring. For a long time, I held it between my fingers. It had once represented a promise. Then it became a prop in someone else's game. But I did not want betrayal to have the final meaning. I took the ring to a local jeweler and asked him to melt it down. He shaped the gold into a small compass pendant. I did not need a reminder of where I had been. I needed a reminder to choose my direction. A year after the party, Mercer Freight opened a second warehouse. At the opening celebration, Aaron handed me a glass of champagne and asked whether I ever regretted what I had done in that ballroom. I thought about Vanessa's joke. I thought about Marcus's open hand. I thought about the slap, the divorce, and the empty house. I regret waiting so long to respect myself, I said. But I don't regret leaving. My revenge was not destroying Vanessa or Marcus. They did that to themselves the moment they decided trust was something they could spend. My revenge was staying calm when they needed me to become cruel. My justice was protecting the people who had built something honest with me. And my victory was discovering that losing a marriage built on humiliation was not failure. It was freedom. So if someone ever offers your place to another person as a joke, remember this: you do not have to fight for a seat at a table where your dignity is entertainment. Stand up, walk away, and let the people who started the game finish it without you, because the strongest revenge is not making them miss what you gave them. It is becoming someone they can never control again.